Good evening, members. As ever, this meeting's been recorded and will be in the public domain. So, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding to welcome the Chairman and Vice Chairman of the Council.
I'm not going to make you stand up and sit down. I think you've all had enough exercise today, or you've been sunning yourself. I'm not sure which. If we could just stand for prayers, please.
God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our districts. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us to see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all people, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. Amen.
If you'd all like to take your seats, please. Item 1 this evening is the election of the new chairman. Before you, on pink paper, for those who have the copies, there is a copy of the order of proceedings that we will follow. That's if I don't get it wrong in between time. There will inevitably be some slight pauses as chains of office are transferred, but the procedure will be followed as set out. Item A. Before I carry out the election of the new chairman, I would like to just say a few words. I can assure you I won't talk too long. It took me all of 10 minutes to write this. Well, how time flies. It only seems like a few weeks since I was standing here, accepting the chain of honour. And now I'm giving it away again. I'm giving it to Dan. What a wonderful year I've had. First and foremost, I would like to thank the members of this council, all of you, who voted for me to represent them. I hope I have done you proud. I would like to thank Dave and the corporate team and the staff here at this council. They are a lovely bunch of people who are caring and always willing and helpful, no matter what the issue. The IT team are now my closest friends, as I've been into them so many times, as I'm just about to throw my computer through the window. A million thanks to you all. Another big thank you goes to my friend and chaplain Marg, who is always ready to support me in everything I am involved in. She always gives me a bit of advice. Not that I always listen, but she does. Not last or least, but my PA, Charlotte. Charl, as I now call her, who keeps me updated and arranges things with me. Charlotte, you came in when Lindsay left us and have coped brilliantly. Thank you for your support. Now, just a short recap of my activities. Afternoon tea at Buckingham Palace with William and Kate. This will be a memory that will stay with me forever. It was so lovely. I have attended numerous mayor-making ceremonies in Stafford, Newcastle, Lichfield, Tamworth, Cannock, Stone, as well as lots of fundraising events at all of these places. My very own celebration here in Cotswold at this wonderful venue, this hub, with a very different menu, went down a storm. That was the Indian food. Well, it went down a storm by most people. All I didn't want to mention any names, Roger. All of the other areas were the areas who visited us on that day. They were in awe of our council buildings here. They were very envious that we could provide so much, and they all went back to their own districts saying we must be like South Staffs. I attended functions at Bagridge for the arts and the opening of the small train services that runs around the grounds. I know this was very close to Len's heart. I felt like the Queen sitting in the little train waving to the onlookers, but I can assure you Bagridge is very well worth the visit. My history knowledge improved when I attended the Samuel Johnson celebrations at Lichfield. It took me back to my school days. Quite some time ago that was. I could go on, especially about services I have attended at the Cannock War Cemetery, but there are so many things to mention. I will just finish with my attendance of the British Empire Award ceremony, when I was privileged and proud to see our leader Roger receive his award. Thank you, Roger. It was very nice. All of the events have been so special and enabled Adrian and myself to make many friends during my year, so that other dignitaries can see what a friendly bunch of people we are here at South Staffs. My biggest achievement has been raising money for a very special charity, which is, as you know, is very dear to my heart, and that's Motor Neurone. I could not have done it without your help, with all the people here, the generosity of you all, my colleagues, the staff and friends. I'm pleased to say we have raised £6,763.63. I don't know what happened to the other few pence. If I'd have known it was that much, I would have willingly put it in. But we've got 63 pence, so I'm sure it'll be useful. I am sure this will be greatly accepted, as I know, by their representative here this evening, Brian Senior. Just to end my little bit of a speech, I would just like to say a very big thank you to all of you from the bottom of my heart. Yeah, I'm now about to present the cheque to Brian Senior for Motor Neurone. Item B, can I now ask for nominations for the chairman for the municipal year 2024 to 2025?
Madam Chair, officers and fellow members, a great pleasure in proposing Councillor Daniel Mark Kinsey, BEM, as chairman of this council. I know him through his work as Womborne Parish Council, where he's invariably known as Chains or the Lord of Womborne. He dedicates every minute of his spare time working for the good of the community, working for the good of the council. From Friday lunchtime till Sunday evening, Dan will be found somewhere in Womborne Village Centre, supporting local events, litter picking, going to businesses, speaking to them, or just making himself available for members of the public to come and speak to him. And that is every weekend, members. Yesterday evening, he produced a video wishing a local football team luck in the semi-final that they're playing now, and which they will play before the match. And it's worthy of note the esteem that he's held in, that they actually approached him. It wasn't the other way around. They said, Dan, will you make this video to support our team? And they're going to talk about his activity outside the council. And it does go a little bit downhill for me, members, so just bear with me. He's employed full-time as a lecturer at Wolverhampton University, lecturing history. We both share a love of literature, and the last time we discussed, he was reading a book, the musings and the thoughts of an ancient Roman philosopher, and I just finished 50 Shades of Grey. So the intellectual conversation was a little bit unbalanced. He has a passion for 1970s music, and there's obviously not many people you can say that about. And he is a keen follower of cricket, and he's got an association with Springhill Cricket Club. And I phoned them up to speak to them a couple of weeks ago, and the secretary answered the phone. He says, "You're just going out to bat." I said, "It's okay, I'll phone later on." He says, no, hang on, he'll be back soon. So members, despite his shocking taste in music, his questionable taste in literature, and his mediocrity of a batsman, I'm certain he'll be a great ambassador for this council. And he will represent the council and district with the honour and humility and pride and passion that obviously deserves. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Do we have a seconder?
I'd like to second everything and what Mark said about Dan. I thought long and hard about what I could give to him as a thanks. So I've made him an honorary Wall season ticket man and follower of Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club. But obviously, he will support you whatever team you support out there. Yeah. But he's a wonderful person. I wish him all the best. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Vince. Are there any more nominations? No? Is it your wish that Councillor Dan Kinsey be the chairman of council? All those in favour, can you raise your hand? What a lucky choose. Oh, right. Are there any against? Are there any abstentions? Same. Thank you. I can confirm that Councillor Dan Kinsey is now the chairman of council for the municipal year 2024 to 2025. We will now formally invest the chairman with the chain of office.
Right, thank you everybody for being so patient whilst we do the whole change around there. This is the declaration of acceptance of office of the Chairman of Council. I, Dan Kinsey, having been elected to the office of Chairman of the Council of the District of South Staffordshire, hereby declare that I take office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of the office according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to be guided in the performance of my functions in that office by the Code of Conduct for Councillors adopted by South Staffordshire Council. There we are. I think that's now official. My goodness. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, everybody. So before I move on with our agenda this evening, like our outgoing chairman, I've also got a few words to say. I will also try to keep this brief, but as Councillor Evans has already alluded to, I am somewhat of an academic. We do tend to be wordy. Apologies. So members, I'll start by saying you all present today, everybody watching from the public gallery, please do not adjust your sets, but it appears that just like Doctor Who, the chairman of the district council has regenerated again. We do have a new face, yes, but I can swear, I can confirm the same dedication to this important civic role, to this council and to this wonderful district. I would like to thank Councillors Evans and Merrick for their very, very kind nomination. It really, really does mean so much to come from these two. I count them as very wonderful and great friends as well as colleagues. I will also say, having made such a wonderful job of it this evening, that Councillor Evans has improved somewhat because the last time he was asked about this, his response was, I can't think of anything good to say about him at the moment. So thanks, Mark, for stepping up this evening. Both, thank you so much. Before I continue, I'd also like to say a little bit about the impact of our outgoing chairman and what an act to follow. Councillor Meg Barrow has served diligently, with grace and infectious humour, as well as a wonderful sense of fun. This may have been evidenced in her chairman's bingo evening, for instance, where her warmth and, I must say, not insignificant stagecraft was on display for all to see and enjoy. I certainly cannot compete with that. In attending and meeting civic heads of many neighbouring authorities, as she's mentioned, with official visits and engagements, Councillor Barrow has gained quite a fan base for her charm and down-to-earth style, and I understand many of you will be keeping in touch. She's fabulous. She's such a champion of this district, and I would like to offer my own thanks for all she has done to represent us in this past year. Meg, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be your vice chairman. Members, I want to say, sitting in this chair right now, that I almost feel as though I shouldn't be here. It's a little bit of imposter syndrome. I'll tell you what I mean. I was born and raised on a council estate, and I, as perhaps with many, you might sympathise with this, Meg. I suspect most of us in that position very rarely harbour any thoughts of becoming a councillor, and certainly never gaining the great honour of becoming the civic head of your local authority. So, you know, what a way we've come.
We have indeed.
Of course, I'm a bit different to some people. Not everyone is like me, because having discussed at the age of 9 or 10 with a friend whether John Major or John Redwood should become Prime Minister of the country, that probably tells you something about my particular bent in life already. But there are factors that can make a great difference, and Megan, for sure it's the same for you. A supportive family is so important. From an early age, I was actually brought up in a single parent household, raised by my mum and her parents. Before too long, she met my dad, who, seeing a young woman with 2 small children, didn't run a mile, actually, but apparently decided, yes, that's for me. and adopted me and my younger brother, who is here today, as his own. My youngest brother followed soon after to complete the family. I was allowed to find my own way as a child, often preferring to seclude myself reading books, as Councillor Evans has mentioned, and forging a, yes, markedly different political path to the rest of my family. For the right conditions to bring me here today, I also have to say, Mum, Dad, thank you. Must say my mum and the eldest of my two brothers are here with us today, and actually they've both travelled from Devon and Cornwall respectively to be here, so they've made the effort, so thank you for that. I'm probably in a very, very small club as a result of this. I mean, I must say, of chairman of council to actually have their mum in the public gallery when they become chairman, so it's quite a thing.
Same year old then.
I couldn't possibly. Now, a common question I get asked about public office and why we do this, I get asked, and maybe you all see this as well from time to time in your own roles. What brought you into local politics? And my answer to that, very simply, is I have a passion for volunteering and I just like to help people. And that's it. It's as simple as that. So whenever on occasion, I'm sure some of you have received the same, when you're referred to as a politician, actually my response to that, I take the Arnold Schwarzenegger approach, which is to respond, I'm not a politician, I am a public servant. And for me, there is something of a distinction. And actually, as I look around the room, I see the same ethos embodied by so many of you here in this chamber today. So on balance, amongst friends and fellow travellers, well, perhaps I do belong here after all. We'll see how it goes. I would like to thank my partner and consort, Elizabeth, in advance for her patience and support over the next year. I expect she is the former and I will need the latter. My chosen charities for this year are threefold. I think the best things come in three. Myself and my brother certainly did. The first being Papyrus UK, dealing with young people's mental health and suicide prevention. And then more locally, Staffordshire Blood Bikes and South Staff's First Responders. All three of these in their own ways of affording perhaps genuinely life-saving help when we are at our most vulnerable. So I therefore expect to spend this year raising an awful lot of money for these charities and seek all of your help, by the way, in doing so. So I will be in touch, more to follow on this. I'll wrap up. Members, guests, thank you all for your kindness and support. And likewise, I am behind you all as you have been behind me. I shall serve you and this district proudly and to the very best of my ability. Thank you for listening. So we will now move on to you'll have a little bit more sort of thinking time amongst yourselves, everybody, as we invest the chairman's consort with the chain of office. Just watch the minor wardrobe malfunction, everybody. There we are, everybody. Oh, that was item F of our agenda. So we'll move on through our pack now. I will now present the retiring chairman and her consort with the past chairman's badges. They give me great privilege. Next, again, we're up and down at this point quite a lot. As a token of thanks, I would also like to present the outgoing chairman and her consort with some flowers and a gift from the members of the council. Right, everybody, as our fabulous retiring chairman takes her seat, we shall move on to item 2. We now turn to the election of the vice chairman. Could I now ask for nominations for the office of vice chairman for the municipal year 2024 to 25?
I would like to nominate Councillor Philip Davis as Vice Chairman of this Council for the municipal year 2024-2025. Unlike Mark, I can't remember what I needed to say, so I've had to write it down. I'll be quick though. I've known Phil for a number of years, and during that time, I've found him to be hardworking, conscientious, reliable, kind, and a good friend. He's very community focused, and not only have Purton residents benefited from his endeavours, but also those from other parts of the district too. He's been instrumental in the formation of the community litter pick in Purton Village Show, the highly successful and oversubscribed Purton Carpet Bowls Club, and now the long-awaited Purton Jubilee Garden allotments, which seem to literally grow daily. Phil is very proud of our district, and I'm certain that he will be a great help and support to Dan during this coming year. So it gives me great pleasure to nominate Phil for Vice Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heseltine, for that wonderful nomination. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Chris Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to second Councillor Phil Davis for the role of Vice Chairman of South Staffordshire Council. It gives me great pleasure to second what Councillor Rita Heseltine has said. I have known Phil for many years now, I've worked with him closely on the litter pick, including one just this Saturday gone, which he helped to set up, and the Purton Village show. I also work closely with Phil on Purton Playing Fields Association for many years, where Phil did a lot of hard work in sorting out the grounds and the sports pavilion. I know that Councillor Davis will be conscientious and hard working across the district, and that he'd be a great support and asset to yourself, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Evans. Members, are there any further nominations? Can't see any. In that case, is it your wish that Councillor Phil Davis be the Vice Chairman of Council? All those in favour, could you please raise your hands? Lovely. Those against, can I have a show of hands, please? Are there any abstentions? Thank you. So with that done, I can confirm that Councillor Phil Davis becomes our Vice Chairman of the Council. Could I invite Councillor Davis to join me and receive the badge of office? Thank you, seats. Councillor Davis, the mic is yours if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members, for showing confidence in me. I much appreciate what's happened, and I look forward to the forthcoming 12 months to work with Dan and work alongside him. I'm sure we'll be very successful together. Thank you again, everybody.
Lovely, thank you, Phil. So that moves us on, everybody, to item 3, which is, we actually have 2 sets of minutes this evening, so apologies if it seems a little repetitive. The minutes, which are on page 1 of your document pack. Is it your wish that I confirm and sign the minutes of the council meeting held on the 26th of March as a true and accurate record? Everybody? There we go. And moving on to item 4, again, the minutes on page 3 this time. Is it your wish that I confirm and sign the minutes of the 2nd of April as a true and accurate record of that meeting? Lovely. Thank you, everybody. We are item 5, apologies. Are there any apologies, Mr. Hayward?
Yes, Chairman, we have apologies from councillors Kath Williams, David Williams, Sue Zalopsky and Vic Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Hayward. Item 6, declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest this evening? Can't see any. Lovely, thank you, everybody. So item 7, we now turn to notification by the leader of the council of the councillors appointed to the cabinet. Can I therefore pass over to the leader, Councillor Roger Lees, to notify the council of the members of cabinet for the municipal year 2024 to 25 and the member appointed as deputy leader for the municipal year 2024-25. Leader.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. I wish to appoint members of the cabinet as follows: Victoria Wilson, Business Enterprise and Community Infrastructure; Kath Perry, Community Services; myself will take the Corporate Services portfolio; Rita Heseltine will take Regulatory Services; and Robert Reid will take Welfare Services. and I nominate Victoria Wilson as Group Deputy Leader, as lead Deputy Leader of the Council. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. That moves us on to item 8 and page 5 of your document pack, the annual review of the constitution of the council. Could I now please pass to the monitoring officer, Mrs. Fowkes, to present her report on the constitution. Lorraine.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, members. As usual, the annual report on the update of the constitution. So the details are in your pack, members, but just very briefly, the summary of the changes is at paragraph 3.2 of your report, but going through each of them in a little more detail. As 3.3 of the report sets out, the first one is around budget proposal. And what we're suggesting here is that if there is an alternative budget proposal, in order that the Section 151 officer can give members the necessary reassurance in respect of that alternative proposal, that there are specific rules around that requiring prior notification to the Director of Finance to enable a view to be given on the soundness of any alternative budget. So the full details are set out in Appendix A to the report and would be incorporated into the Council standing orders if approved this evening. As I said, that would allow the Section 151 officer to give the assurance as to members of the impact of such any budget proposals on the budget position, and to give assurance that a balanced budget could be achieved. Prior notification to members is suggested would enable members to fully consider those alternative proposals in advance of the meeting. Without any such advanced notification, and the proposal tabled on the evening would inevitably require an adjournment in proceedings in order that the implications could be fully assessed and advised upon in order for members to make a considered decision on those alternative proposals. Moving on to some other changes around council procedure rules. Firstly, standing to speak. As members will be aware, it currently states in our standing orders that members should speak when they're addressing to council or the meeting. That is perhaps a traditional rule that has lapsed recently. With the audio-visual equipment that we have now in the chamber, the need to stand to be seen and heard is lessened, and there are also, importantly, quality considerations to consider that some people may find standing more difficult, and therefore we're suggesting that particular rule is amended and it's an option to stand but not a requirement to stand going forward. Moving on to paragraph 3.5 of the report, members, this is around officers speaking. As you all know, members can ask questions to members, generally cabinet members at meetings. Whilst not specifically mentioned in the constitution, on occasion it is appropriate for officers to provide information in respect of those responses because they have the operational day-to-day knowledge. So we're just suggesting that is reflected in the Constitution, and the relevant rules 11.5 and 12.5 of the Constitution are amended to allow that, with the consent of the member to whom the question was put, can defer to an officer for an answer if necessary. 3.6 just mentions about the proposed change in the day of Audit and Risk Committee. Whilst not technically within the Constitution, it seemed appropriate to flag that here and get approval from members to make that amendment. And that amendment is reflected in the proposed dates for Audit and Risk Committee, which is later on your agenda. Moving on to 3.7, there are a number of proposed minor amendments to the scheme of delegation to officers in Part 3 of the Constitution. They are set out in the report, and in Appendix B to the report, members, is a tracked changes version of those relevant delegations. So hopefully you can see where those amendments are proposed. There are a number of administrative changes that are necessary to be made to the Constitution. One is around the procurement thresholds. They are updated by central government on a 2-yearly basis, and that was updated in January of this year, so the Constitution will be updated to reflect that. And there have been some minor changes to functions at assistant director level, and again the Constitution will be updated to reflect that. Importantly, there are no new delegations sought under this heading. It is just to reflect some changes in functionality. Then moving on finally to issues around Cabinet. So the recent changes in the composition of Cabinet will be reflected in the constitution. And it's also proposed to change the quorum level for the cabinet to bring it in line with other committees. All other committees require a quarter membership to be quorate. There was an anomaly with the cabinet membership being 3 voting members. So it's proposed to change that so the cabinet quoracy is the same as other committees. So the recommendation, members, is that the revised constitution be adopted by council and replace all previous versions of the constitution. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mrs. Foulkes. Do we have a proposer?
Yes,
Councillor Lees.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I would like to propose that the changes set out in detail in paragraph 3 of the report be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Do we have a seconder?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to second that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Members, are there any questions? Councillor Allen.
Thank you. I want to welcome some of these changes at 3.7, but I just wanted a question or two about some of the others. Okay. Firstly, in the 1, 2, 3, the 4th bullet point about the clarification of section 1 Local Government Act in association with section 106. Why is that necessary? Could you give us a brief explanation, please? And secondly, to say that at bullet point 5, the delegation to assistant directors to sign grant agreements. I want to welcome that, but I want to ask the question whether that will speed the process, because my parish has been waiting since, well, we were given at the end of March and now we're in May. We've only just receiving the grant that we were due to an absence of this committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Councillor Allen. Lorraine.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Firstly, the section 1.1 is it's a provision within local government legislation that basically says you can do anything that's incidental to another function. So whilst we use section 106 of the Planning Act to enter into planning agreements, if there are any amendments necessary to those, then technically speaking, we're exercising incidental power under section 111. So it's just to absolutely clarify, it's not a new delegation per se, it's just a clarification that we're relying on section 111, the incidental power, in order to execute that section 106. 106 will still be through the normal approval process. It doesn't change that. It's just to make sure no one can say, you can't do that, you haven't got the power to do it. It's just clarifying that point. And then the delegation to assistant directors to sign grant agreements, as it says in the report, this is not amending the approval process. So the approval process is still the same, and we'll go through the approval of the board that meets to determine those grant applications. But hopefully it will have the effect of speeding up the process, because at the moment there's not a clear delegation for assistant directors to execute those and get those agreements out the door.
Lovely, thank you, Lorraine. Councillor Allen, do you like to come back on that?
I would, please. Yes, just to say, the delays in the process are very difficult for those of us who are acting under quotations, when the quotation needs to be updated because of the length of time in awarding the grant. So I just want to make the committee aware about that, really, so that we speed up the grant making process so that we can be within our quotation limitations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Members, any more questions? Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Chairman. Strange enough, mine, Councillor, to speak me to it is the same paragraph, but the other 3 bullet points, to be fair. So just on the first one, regarding the delegated authority for the signing of statements of common ground, is that still subject to overview scrutiny, either voluntarily being brought to it or through member calling to scrutinise those statements of common ground before they're actually signed? On the second one, for the delegation for the Green Strategic Master Plans. Now, I know members local have been involved at an early stage on the master plans, and I just welcome some comments from Councillor Wilson on the commitment basically to involve local members in those master plans before the delegated authority is enacted upon. And then the final one, that's jumped out at me. So the clarification that the corporate director of Place and Communities can authorise the issue of section 215 notices without prior consultation with ward councillors. which jumps out. That's always something that jumps out to me because I think all councillors should be involved in everything locally in their area. So can you just summarise what a section 215 notice is and why it should be done without consultation of all councillors as opposed to with? If just those 3 points clear.
Lovely, thank you, councillor Fisher. Lorraine?
I can certainly clarify what is section 215 notice. So section 215 notice is untidy land notice. So it's where, you know, there's an untidy area of land that's having a detrimental impact on the amenity of the area. So it's only those notices, which in effect is a judgment. With the other one, I'm going to respectfully defer to my colleague, Mrs. Roberts, to address the issues around the statement of common ground and the strategic master plans. Very much more her bag than mine.
Very much, yeah, thank you. In terms of the statements of common grounds, they tend to be legal matters that are dealt with through through an appeal process or through the process of determining the obviously through the inquiry process. And they also tend to be legal matters in terms of agreements that we would already have had those conversations with members on. So I think that's in terms of the statements of common ground. I think in relation to the master plans, we've always made a commitment that those engagements, there would always be an early engagement with members in terms of the master plans, but ultimately, again, to save the time, that the responsibility for formally signing those would be with myself, but ultimately after a conversation with members, because that's the whole process of that engagement at an early date.
Thank you both. Councillor Wilson, you don't want to come in?
Thank you, Chairman. No, I believe Mrs. Roberts has already articulated the bit I was going to say, which was that the master plan at the beginning of the process, all members are engaged in that. So, but I think she said it far better than I would.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Sorry, Councillor Fisher.
No, I'm just going to obviously thank them for the comments and glad it's been said in this public domain recorded. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Fisher. Members, any further questions? No, thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on this item? No, lovely. In which case, is it your wish that the recommendation is carried? Those in favour, can I have a show of hands, please? That's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. The recommendation is approved. That brings us on to item 9, which is the report of the monitoring officer on page 19 of your pack regarding political balance. So could I please pass back to the monitoring officer, Lorraine?
Thank you, Chairman. So members, this report is one that we have to bring on an annual basis to council to reconfirm political balance, but just for members' reassurance, there is absolutely no change from the report from last year. So the political balance of this council remains exactly the same. It's as set out in paragraph 3.6 of the report as regarding the seats on the various committees. And I can give confirm to members that the proposed appointments to committees that is later on your agenda does accord with that political balance requirement. So as I say, it's kind of a non-decision report because there's no changes to a previous one, but it's a requirement that we bring it on an annual basis. And the recommendation is that the overall proportions for committees as set out in paragraph 3.6 be approved.
Lovely, thank you, Mrs. Fowkes. Do we have a proposer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose the political balance set out in the report be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Do we have a seconder?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Members, are there any questions? Nobody's signalling. Lovely. Does anybody wish to speak on this item? Also no, in which case, is it your wish that this recommendation is carried? Once again, those in favour, can I please have a show of hands? Lovely, it is unanimous. The recommendation is approved. Next, we will go through the appointments to each committee and the other positions from items 10 to 29. So I will take all of these committee appointments together as one vote unless any member objects and asks for a particular item to be considered separately. Pause for intervention. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to refer to agenda item 14, the Wellbeing Select Committee. It's the county lead. We have Councillor J. Abrahams. In fact, it's Councillor Kath Perry that attends for Staffordshire County. It's correct, Kath, isn't it? So I would like that to be corrected, please.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Lovely. So we'll take that. We'll take that on board. We'll take that into account. Can I refer you now, everybody, to the lovely lilac nomination sheet that is in front of you, which details the proposed appointments, including the recommendations of the Conservative, South Staffordshire Independents, Liberal Democrats, Green and Labour groups. At this point, I know the monitoring officer wishes to make a clarifying point. Mrs. Foulkes.
Thank you. Members, since the list was printed, a couple of amendments that have come to our attention. So in respect of agenda item 26, which is the appointment to outside bodies, and then sub item 6, which is the Codsall Village Hall, there's actually 2 representatives, whereas the agenda lists 1. So it is as per the lilac list, the 2 representatives. And then one further amendment, which only came to our attention today, is in respect of, again, outside bodies appointment number 24 to West Midlands Employers. It's traditionally been the chief executive. They've changed their constitution, and we were notified today it's the chief executive plus member. So that will be the chief executive plus the leader of the council, Councillor Lee. So those are the amendments to the lilac list.
Lovely, thank you, Lorraine. Do we have a proposer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose the appointments to each committee and other positions from item 10 to 29 as set out in the lilac sheet with the appropriate amendments.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Do we have a seconder?
Thank you. Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Members, are there any questions? No? Does anyone wish to speak on this item or these items? No? Lovely. In which case, is it your wish that the recommendations for appointments in respect of items 10 to 29 are carried? Once more, those in favour, can I have a show of hands, please? That's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. The appointments and nominations are approved. Now we have item 30, page 25 of your pack, the calendar of meetings. Can we now turn to the approval of the calendar of meetings? And once more, I'll hand over to Lorraine, who wishes to speak on this item.
Last time for me tonight, I promise, members. Again, a slight amendment to the version that's in your pack. You should all have before you a printed version of the calendar of meetings. There are only 2 very minor amendments, but just to highlight them to you members. So the date of the first meeting of the Audit and Risk Committee in the pack was listed as the 20th of June. That's actually the 27th of June. Which is as per your version printed out, and the version in the pack lists a cabinet meeting on the 14th of May. That is not taking place. So those are the only 2 amendments from the pack version to the version in front of you this evening.
Lovely, thank you, Mrs. Foulkes. Do we have a proposer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to propose the approval of the calendar of meetings as listed.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Do we have a seconder?
Yes, thank you. I will second that.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Members, is it your wish that the calendar of meetings is approved? Thank you, everybody. No one violently objects to something within that. Lovely. Thank you, everybody. Now that moves us on to item 31. We're getting there, everybody. Mr. Hayward, are there any questions pursuant to Rule 11.4?
No, there are none, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dave. That brings us on to the very final item of this meeting. You'll be relieved to know, members, you want to get on and have some dinner, don't you, really? So this is Chairman's announcements. So I will warn you all that in these meetings from now on, these are likely to be lengthy chairman's announcements. I am known for that. So are you ready? Are you ready for this? Are you standing on the edge of your seat? Anybody? Quick. Queen, another one bites the dust. You'll see where that it might be pertinent in a minute. Members, I already have several engagements in the diary, including the mayor-making ceremony for Stafford Borough Council on the 11th of May, the East Staffordshire Civic Service on the 19th of May, and mayor-making ceremony at Telford and Wrekin Council on the 23rd of May. This is as well as attending my first in-district function. I will be attending a dementia wellbeing event to be held at Purton, the church in Purton on the 17th of May. I'm really looking forward to that. And I will also be attending Buckingham Palace for His Majesty's garden party on the 21st of May. It's a tough job that someone's got to do. I will say now a date for your diaries. I will be holding my own civic service at St Benedict's in Womben on the 30th of June, followed by afternoon tea at Womben Civic Centre. So please be there if you can. And don't worry, I will remind you all closer to the date. I will follow you up on that. And finally, this is something that will be known to very few people in this room right now. I want to announce my first fundraising effort that has been booked in the diary. So I have booked a skydive to take place on the 10th of August for myself and Mr. Hayward. Don't worry, Dave.
Chairman, I'm going to delegate that one to who I
Who
haven't
to?
decided yet.
Yeah, don't worry, Dave. I am joking. On it. Members, it is just for me, I promise. So I'll be getting the details to you about all of this out in due course, and I would greatly appreciate your support in spreading this as far and as wide as possible. This is one fundraiser where you don't have to turn up, you don't have to dress up or book tickets or anything else that's complicated. All you need to do is tell people about it and put your hand in your pocket. How hard can that be? So I hope you're excited about that. I certainly am. And on that note, members, that is the end of our agenda for this evening. So thank you all for your attendance, your patience and support. And I will call the meeting to a close.